This is the second of 3 tutorials in the color sensing series. In this tutorial, we'll examine how to identify black on the playing field since it is not part of the color sensing options. We will then examine how to use variables to count the amount of black squares that are in the robot path, and eventually you'll move on and you'll get to a place where you're counting and reporting out the different number of squares for each of the colors in a robot's path. So let's go ahead and get started. To begin with, you can see I've got a new project open. So if you've gone into the Vex VR environment, and again, we are in the VR environment, not EXP. So if you're in here and there's something here, then I would go to File and Save first, then open a new Blocks project. Once you open the new Blocks project, okay, come up here, change the name of it. I changed this one to Sensing Brightness because that's what we're going to be doing in this one. Then just like in the last one, I'm going to right click inside the programming space and I'm going to add a note. And then inside of that note, I'm going to put in the challenge for this particular one. So for this challenge, this is the level 2, so this is the next level up. All right, you're going to be using the starting point B on the playground. You're going to program the robot to count each black line it detects that it's in its path while it's driving forward. All right, and you're going to use variables to keep track of these black lines as they stack up. Okay. So we're going to go to select playground. We're going to use the same playground as last time. We're going to use the line detector. Okay. And then this time we're also going to use the monitor. All right. So if you click on the speedometer over here, okay, that's the monitor icon, and that's going to allow us to see what the different sensors are seeing when they're in the field for sensor feedback. And then it's also going to allow us to have somewhere to place our variables as they stack up. Okay, so for now, I'm just going to hide this. And just like before, I'm going to go into my comment block and I'm going to start by adding my name to the top of the comment stack. So let's do a little bit of an investigation. All right. If we go to our sensing and we look at the front eye sensor as an example, you'll notice that we can detect red, green, and blue, but we have no way of detecting black on the playing field. If I show the playing field, you'll see there's a lot of black squares on here, all right, but I have no way of detecting those. And the reality is the way that those would be detected is based off of brightness values. So when the robot rolls over a block with the brightness sensor or with the eye sensor, it can determine how much light is being reflected back or what is the brightness that it's seeing. So in this case, there's varying levels of brightness for the different blocks on here. So let's take a look at that. First thing I want to do is I want to set up my robot. So we're going to be over position B for our start point. So I'll come over here to my start points and I'll select B. If you don't see that, remember, you can just hit the hamburger up here, and then here's our map pin for setting our new start point. Okay, and then I'm going to set this to drive forward. And since I want to sense, okay, I want to use the down eye. Okay. I'm not actually going to set up the down eye to do anything, but what I do want is I want to see it as a sensor here. I want to see what's going on with that sensor as I drive over stuff. So I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to add to my monitor. I could do that here, or I can do that over here. Any of the sensors I have that are rounded like this, okay, I can just right click on them and add to monitor. In some versions of software, you will see a check mark to the left of them that you can check off, and that will do the same thing. So here's my down eye brightness. When I press play, you're going to see, okay, this is going to roll forward. As it rolls over each of those black patches, you'll see the level of brightness. Currently, it's seeing 100%, so it's over a white patch. So as it rolls forward, you can see it's dropping to 0. All right. Now, just for idle curiosity, what would happen if we drove over some colored blocks? All right. So I'm going to change my start point. and I'm going to see if there's any difference. I'm going to slow it down a little bit. Let's change our drive velocity. You don't have to, but I'm going to slow it down just a little bit. So I'll go for 25% drive velocity, and then let's play it again. All right. So notice it's 29, 58, 11, and 0 when it sees black. Okay. So that tells me that I can actually use the brightness sensor to detect the colors as well. Um, so that may be important to us later on. So now that we know that any reflectance or any brightness that's less than, say, 10%, I think. All right, let's run that over one more time. Okay, we had a 29, a 58, 11. Yeah, so anything less than 10 for sure is not going to be detected as any other color. It would be black, right? So let's start by programming it so that when it drives forward and sees black, it just stops. Okay. So right now it's driving forward. Let's use wait until, just like we did before. For this one, okay, we want to use an operator. So an operator is a mathematical icon that allows us to do things like adding, subtracting, or comparing two numbers, right? So we have our basic mathematic functions here for add, subtract, multiply, and divide. But we also have the ability to compare whether things are equal, less than, um, less than or equal to, greater than equal to. So in this case, I want to use this operator, okay, and I want to put my brightness in here, and I want it to stop when my brightness is less than 10%. Right? Because we know that less than 10% is definitely going to be black. It's not going to be blue in this case, right? We said blue looked like it was hovering around 11% brightness. Oh, let's put that back in there. Grab this and drop it in. There we go. All right, so we got that sorted. So now when we run this, okay, we want it to stop after it sees that. Right? So we go to our drivetrain and stop driving. So let's run it and see what happens. I'm going to change my start point to A, and I'm going to change my drive velocity to 100%, so it's going to go a lot faster. So let's go. There it goes, and it stopped. Okay, it didn't stop the project because we didn't tell it to stop the project, but it stopped. Okay, so that was the first thing we want to do, was get it so that it's reacting to the black squares. We've done that. However, if we look at the challenge statement, okay, it said that it wants us to count out, right? So it says, use the program the VR robot to count each black line that it detects while it's driving forward. So we haven't counted anything. In order for us to start counting things, we need to use variables. All right, a variable is something that allows us to store a number. All right. And as the robot goes along, it can add to that number or it can subtract from that number. So we're going to go all the way to the bottom to where we have our variables. Okay. Now, oftentimes it will start off with a variable. I don't want to use that one. So I'm going to right click on it and just hit delete. Okay. And I'm going to make my own custom variable. So the name of this variable is going to be number underscore black. Okay. And then I'm going to hit submit. When I do, that gives me the variable as a stored package, right? This rounded icon, and it also gives me these two blocks to use it or add to it. So I'm going to right click on this and I'm going to add the variable to my monitor. So now you can see it comes up over here. And then um, instead of having it stop, okay, I'm going to get rid of the stop driving. Okay, I want it to count up by 1. Now, right now, my variable is set to 0. However, if I run this code multiple times, every time it's going to add to that variable. So one thing you want to get in the habit of doing is you want to reset your variable at the top of your code before you run it. All right, so I'm going to set my numblack variable to 0. All right, so now every time I run the code, it's going to automatically reset this so I get a fresh count. I'm going to switch my start position over to column B. Okay. And then when I run this, it should go through and count the number of black lines or black segments, right? So how many did I get? Well, I got one, and there's clearly more than one here. And if you recall, when we did some work on some previous missions in this class, we said that anytime you're sensing for something, you want it to repeat for that over and over again, right? So in this case, I want to go to my logic and I want to grab a loop, okay? And instead of repeating forever, okay, I want it to repeat until I get to the other side of my playing field. So I'll use repeat until, all right? And in the last mission, we said we could stop the robot by using the front bumper. So we'll have it repeat until the left bumper presses the other side. And so now we're going to put this into here. Okay. So long as we haven't touched the other side, it's going to do everything that's in here. As soon as this becomes true, it's going to jump down. Okay. So at that point, we're going to want it to stop and end the project. All right. So let's reset it and try this. So notice it automatically reset there for me. Okay, so I got a couple of problems here. First things first, it's still going. It never stopped the project. The second thing is, look at my number count. I drove over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blocks. I did not get 5 blocks for that. Okay, it told me I got 20. Now, why is that? Well, watch what happens when I slow down the velocity. 25%, reset it and run it again. Remember, this time we got 20. Okay, so it went a little slower. Okay, it's telling me I got 35, I got 52, I got 60, I have 86 there. Okay, there's clearly 5 blocks. Why am I getting 86? Well, the reason is when it goes over that first block, okay, and we'll stop it there, it's over it long enough for it to repeat 17 times through this cycle. So I don't really want to count every time it sees black inside that cycle. What I want to count is every time it sees black and then comes off of it. So I'm going to come down and I'm going to do another wait until. So I'll duplicate this. And what I really want to see is, put that back there. Okay. I want, there we go. Thank you. Okay. I want to know when it sees black, but then I also want to know when it comes off it and sees white. All right. So anything above 90 is going to be almost certainly white. Okay. So now let's try that again. We'll reset it and run our code. So notice how it's counting it after it comes off it and sees white. This time I'm getting an accurate count. However, it's still not stopping. Okay, we programmed it to stop after it pressed the bumper. It should have pressed the bumper. Okay, and the reason for that has to do with the code structure. Okay, using two waits in a row like this um, tends to get the code to kind of lock in to this loop here in a way that it doesn't allow it to break free and then come out when it gets the bumper pressed. So we need to change the structure of these. So instead of using wait, wait, okay, we're going to use an if then statement. Okay, so we'll use if then. Okay, so if we see a brightness that's less than 10, then we're going to check in here and wait to see when that brightness comes up above 90. Then we'll change our number, at which point we'll come out of this. All right, so we'll get rid of that first wait and we'll put this inside of there. All right, so now I'll reset this and restructure my code and try it. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it stopped. And that's what we want to do. All right. So at this point, you can go ahead, all right, save up what you got. Okay, remember, go to File and Save, okay, and then add this to your documentation. Good luck.